Good morning everyone. Today's team that I'm going to showcase is going to be Yanagi Astra Nicole. I'm calling this team strategy the Thundering Disorder Nuke. You will love this team if you like seeing big number one after another. Yanagi in this team is going to be played as a hyper carry burst disorder DPS, where she will concentrate on outputting a lot of damage during the short stun window, with the help of Astra and Nicole of course. Although you should know that Yanagi core passive actually isn't active in this team, but it's no problem at all. This strategy on this team is mostly enabled by the Typhon boss unique mechanic where we don't need a stunner. If we are against an enemy that do need a stunner though, we could switch Astra to a stun agent like NB, Chingy, or maybe Trigger. I don't know about that yet, we'll have to see when she comes out. One thing though is that Nicole is actually the one who is irreplaceable in this Yanagi team. You'll see why in the rotation breakdown. Talk about power creep proof. Before we get to the rotation breakdown, let's review on the disorder mechanics. Whenever we trigger Anomaly, we will apply a unique effect for each attribute. For Electric and Ether Anomaly, it's going to be a tick of DOT that triggered by hitting the enemy with 10-second duration. What happened when another attribute anomaly is applied after another one? Disorder happen. One visualization analogy that I really like to explain this is, we're like pulling all the ticks of DOT and multiply them some more. That's why disorder is more preferable than only triggering the anomaly itself. And also why its damage is time dependent, as the DOT ticks will decrease as this 10-second progress. Of course, there's going to be more nuance to this, but we're not going to deep dive onto the calculation in this video. If we trigger shock over corruption, we'll call it an ether disorder for the explanation of this video. Vice versa, applying corruption over shock is going to be an electric disorder. This will be our prep, where we will go into more detail on the polarity disorder and how to maximize their damage on the rotation breakdown. You might notice that ether disorder damage is way lower than shock disorder in this team, even though corruption and shock motion value weigh the same. That's because naturally, Yanagi is going to have a higher anomaly damage as she is a proper anomaly agent, while Nicole is a pseudo anomaly agent, we call it here. Don't get me wrong, Nicole is really good on this position as she has a really great ether anomaly application. But until we get our ether anomaly agent, Yanagi build is the standard Chaos Jazz build that we know. Stack as much AP and attack percent substats, attack percent for this 6 as she is the damage dealer in this team. You can choose between attack percent or damage percent for this 5, any of them that you have with the more AP and attack substat. But I do not recommend pen ratio this 5 if you are playing her with Nicole, and AP for this 4. Nicole Astra build here is going to be the exact same build that we've already talked about in my Yanagi Astra Nicole video. You could use 4-piece swing jazz on Nicole for more damage buff for Yanagi, but with ether neutral resistance of Typhon here, I find that it's quite hard to achieve the rotation that I want without Freedom Blue's 4-piece. Because remember, Freedom Blue's passive not only buff Nicole anomaly buildup, but also Astra and the Bangboos. Just so you know, swing just 4-piece on Nicole is also a good option here. Speaking of Bangboos, you want Bangboo with great ether anomaly buildup like Resonaboo or Devilboo. We will explore on why this is the case in the rotation breakdown, but any ether Bangboo should work just fine. Snap is especially really good. Before we start the rotation breakdown, let's talk about our strategy. To explain our strategy to slay Typhon, we will divide Typhon boss combat into several phases. The resource prep phase, where we will charge Yanagi Thundering Burst, the 3 defensive assist phase, that transition into the stunning phase, where Typhon will be vulnerable to this, and our burst prep 2, where we will set up our buff and debuff here for the stun window phase, the most important of all, where we will burst all our damage that we've been preparing. Don't worry, we will get over all this slowly throughout the rotation breakdown. Repeat this timeline a couple of times until the time runs out or until the boss is slayed. In this showcase, we get to slay the boss with 4 stun impair, giving us 2400 performance point. But there's a separate strategy to get 3000 or even 3600 performance point in this fight. But they will be the topic for our future video, so stay tuned for that. Then let's talk about the stage buffs. Which one will we use in this team? There's no disorder or AP buff this season, which would be the best for Yanagi. More energy in buff 1 is definitely good. And the quick assist buff with Astra, you can definitely get a rotation to maximize the combat attack buff. You should consider this buff to be the best in slot for any Astra team. But Yanagi here doesn't really focus her damage on her quick assist, as Yanagi quick assist has a low anomaly buildup, so the quick assist buff might not matter much. So let's see another one. Second buff is not really ideal. If we are not doing a triple or quadruple chain attack on our main DPS, we can't really monopolize on this buff, so it's a no-go. Buff 3 is actually really good. Yanagi will really like the 30% damage percent buff on her EX and 30% combat attack by perfect dodge and assist. Even only 15 seconds is really possible to maintain in our burst rotation here. So judging from this, we will use the third buff, as it has the same combat attack buff as the first buff and more useful damage percent buff for Yanagi. Even though we miss out on the bonus energy, Yanagi actually doesn't necessarily need it in this rotation. The opening of our fight this time is more elegant. If you have watched my Yanagi Astra Nicole video, you'll see that my opening that time actually not ideal. Well, it was a day 1 rotation, you have to forgive me on that, as Miyabi start with no Astra buff in her first frost. Here, we can fix that by starting Astra's concert early, and then use Nicole basic attack to precise assist into Yanagi, giving Yanagi the buff to start. Although it wouldn't matter much in this case, as we are not going to focus on damage yet. This first phase, we will solely focus to generate the team's energy and decibels for the nuke that's coming. We will do this by getting as much basic and dodge counter with Yanagi. To review a bit on energy generation, there are 2 ways to generate energy. The passive energy generation, which is based by the ER stat on the agent stat, and the active generation, which is based on the agent's unique weight of energy generation on their moves and the ERR stat. You might notice that I switched from Kagen to Jogen stance with Yanagi in this run. I used Jogen mainly on the energy generation phase and Kagen on the rest. This is not going to be a huge impact, but the reasoning for that is because Jogen 3 generate more energy and decibels than Kagen 3. Even if it's only a bit, but who knows, maybe it will matter. We really want Yanagi energy to be full during the stun window, so that she can get 4 to 5 polarity disorder bursts. The way of our energy generation in this rotation is going to be dodge counter and Jogen 3. So it would be in our interest to not get hit and get as much that counter, as it will translate into more energy for Yanagi. And also, this depends on our own preferences. Personally, I feel like it's easier for me to dodge with Jogen stance, while in Kagen stance, I mainly use it to utilize its huge iframes. Here, Typhon taking a step back and firing its rocket barrage, we prepare Yanagi for the next phase by switching stance to Kagen, dodge the rockets, and defensive assist the first yellow glint with Nicole, and then back to Yanagi, then back to Nicole again. Be careful when doing this string of input. Maybe sometimes Typhon could miss when we are out of range, or there's also a possibility that the next defensive assist become invalid. Like for example, when I use EX on Nicole here, it will occupy her animation. Thus, after Yanagi defensive assist, she'll not get out of field yet, making her invalid for the next defensive assist. And Astra can defensive assist Typhon. But if you want to apply Nicole energy field here, you can make Nicole to be the second defensive assist, so that it doesn't matter if her animation is occupied or not after that. But at least now they get rid of assist point just for this boss, so we don't have to worry about AP management. And you might notice I slipped in basic 1 after the parries. It's also a small effort to make sure Nicole and Yanagi energy is enough for the next part. It's only gonna generate 1 or 2 energy actively, but there's no downside to this. And on the third defensive assist, on Nicole follow-up attack, we cancel her long follow-up animation with the dash so that she can immediately EX special. And go to Yanagi Kagen 345 for more Yanagi energy and electric anomaly, cancel the 5th Kagen as she is invulnerable in this state, we don't have to worry. And go to Nicole, accumulating days on Typhon by dodge counter. Try to get 2 to 3 perfect dodge here, as Typhon is about to be stunned, and it would be best that the combat attack buff from the stage buff is max and refresh, and this is the perfect setup for Yanagi to drop her Thundering Nuke. We want all buff and debuff to be ready here, just before we enter the stun window. Stage buff is at max 3-stack refresh, energy field is deployed, Astra Cord is ready to refresh Yanagi buff as soon as she precise assists, and our anomaly meter Ether is at around 50%, and this meter will fill alongside Yanagi burst by Nicole energy field, and electric anomaly is at full capacity. So as soon as Yanagi precise assist hits, Typhon gets shocked and stunned, and our first Polarity Disorder hits the stun window, giving us 860k. We'll save that number for now and go to Nicole chain attack, refreshing the energy field, then to Yanagi chain attack, building electric anomaly to about half, cancel the chain attack, then we immediately ultimate, giving us 1.65 million disorder. So before we go further, let's talk about on why there is a huge difference on the Polarity Disorder number here. Yanagi Polarity Disorder works the same just like the disorder damage that we've talked before. Yanagi will inflict 15% of what would be the disorder damage B, without overwriting the current anomaly, and also giving additional damage based on her own AP. The difference here lies in the anomaly bar. One keynote that we should know here is that anomaly bar snapshots agent stats. What does snapshot mean? It basically means anomaly bar remembers when they are applied, who they are applied by, and by what way. The first shock is the electric anomaly bar that we applied while Yanagi is unbuffed with basic attacks and dodge and outside stun, while the second anomaly bar is built by Yanagi EX, chain attack, and ultimate, with all the buffs online inside stun, so it would be the stronger one here. Remember, there is stun multiplier in the disorder damage calculation. The second Polarity Disorder from Yanagi ultimate gives higher damage, as it is simultaneously triggering the second, stronger shock. So the Polarity Disorder from Yanagi ultimate will hit the second shock. We'll call it the stun shock. Caution, if we miss the shock proc, there will be a huge DPS loss, as the Polarity Disorder hits the weaker shock here. And I think the best way to avoid this is to just practice, spend some time with Yanagi, and get the feel of her anomaly application. Now here's an example of different scenario for the first stun window anomaly bar. Why does the damage still really low? The difference here is that in this scenario, our electric anomaly setup is not right. The electric anomaly bar is not yet full when Typhon is stunned. Thus, Yanagi EX here didn't touch the stun window. Instead, it held back to trigger the first shot first. Then after Yanagi chain attack, we have to fill 25% of the anomaly bar that should have been filled by Yanagi EX with some basic attack. This consumed too much time, making Nicole debuff on enemy already run out when Polarity Disorder hits, making the damage lower. Important! Anomaly only snapshot our agent stats. It does not snapshot the enemy stats. So you would want your debuff to present when your disorder hits, while with our own agent, at least you can be at ease when the stun shock already filled. We can also compare the two scenarios stun shock like this. One other thing that makes them different is that they are built by different ways. The anomaly bar, remember, they are built by EX or by basic attack. In this stage, Yanagi EX is buffed by the stage buff and Chaos Jazz, while the boss Typhon is also really weak to chain attack and ultimate when it's stunned. Compared between all of them, basic attack is the least powerful move on Yanagi here. That's why it also has a low damage, because as you can see after this, the stun shock is really strong, that even if Nicole debuff run out, Yanagi damage should still be higher than 1 million. To see that, let's go back to our run after the ultimate. We refresh Nicole debuff by quickly swapping to her ultimate, then go back to Yanagi, and now Yanagi energy is full again because of Nicole ultimate energy recharge effect. Then we hit 1.47 million with our third Polarity Disorder, then 1.41 million, then 1.29 million. The number descends each time as Polarity Disorder is still time dependent. Let's stop here for now and see other scenario that we have. With a close condition from our run, Instead of going to Nicole after Yanagi ultimate, we immediately Yanagi EX. As you can see, Nicole debuff from her chain attack isn't even enough to cover until Yanagi EX hits here. And we get a significant damage loss too. So we should appreciate Nicole in our team to fully utilize her support capability. But you can also see here that even if Nicole debuff is off, the Polarity Disorder from the Stun Shock still hits over 1 million damage, different from the Stun Shock example before that is built by basic attack. Let's go back to our run where we left off. Yanagi already depleted all her energy. Now it's time for Nicole and Astra to finish the nuke by closing the Stun Shock with Ether, giving us 2.42 Electric Disorder. This is the role that I say really important for Nicole, making her irreplaceable. The Stun Shock that we set up is the strongest disorder nuke that we can prepare. If we trigger an instant electric disorder on it, we could actually get a 3.5 to even over 4 million disorder damage if you want a good screenshot. But the better strategy for higher damage per rotation is to hit it with Polarity Disorder first before closing it with Nicole. The electric disorder damage will be lower, of course, but overall, the damage will be higher. This is a privilege that Mono Electric Yanagi team can have. Yanagi in Mono Electric can use the really powerful Thunder Metal Disc, but there's no one to be able to close Yanagi Electric Anomaly. Back to our run, now that Ether has been triggered, we inflict Shock again with Yanagi to trigger Ether Disorder, giving 624k. If we are fast enough, we could also include this in the stun window, doubling its damage. Or if you want, we could also wait for the Typhon to telegraph its jump so that we can cancel its jump by shocking it. But it's not really necessary here. You can see the Astra ultimate is ready here, but I think it's too late to activate it now. In this rotation, I would rather save it for the next stun window. Here's the summary of our first stun window. Overall, it's really great, but we can do much better, and we'll see that on our second stun window. We repeat the timeline back to energy generation phase. Just like before, try to not get hit and get as much dots for energy. Here I switch Yanagi stance to Kagem, thinking that Typhon is about to rocket barrage, but apparently Typhon doesn't feel like it yet. We can't do nothing on it. I don't know how this boss behaves for this program, but sometimes it just doesn't want to move on to the next phase. Typhon finally shoots its rocket, dodge it, then parry, just like before. And here, because Shock Anomaly bar is almost full, and Yanagi energy is quite enough, I restrain on attacking with Yanagi by swap cancelling her quick assist to Astra, then go back to Nicole. Get 3 perfect dodge to refresh the stage buffs. I don't do the dodge counter because Typhon days is already at above 90 and I don't want to stun it too early. Stage buff, max, and refresh. Let's drop our second nuke. The setup for our second stun here is quite different. As you can see, the anomaly bar of electric is full just like before, but Ether is also almost full, which enable us to fit in more disorder overall later. And this rotation will also differ from the first because now we have Astra ultimate to further help us on building our anomaly. Like before, we start with charging Nicole EX, mid Nicole charge, we precise assist cancel to Yanagi, trigger the shock, then EX, triggering chain attack to Nicole chain attack. We see here we got 1 million Polarity Disorder from Yanagi EX. You will see higher damage in the second stun here than the first. Nicole triggering an instant electric disorder with the non-stun shock, giving us 2.7 million. But isn't this a problem? Because now we will not have enough Ether Anomaly to close the stun shock. That's where Astra and the Bangboo come in. With the help of Freedom Blue's debuff, their chain attack will build the Ether Anomaly back up to more than 50%. Then we chain attack to Yanagi. Nicole debuff is almost gone. Before we ultimate, let's refresh it with Nicole ultimate, but we will slip in one Yanagi basic first. Then quick assist Yanagi, fit in one more Yanagi basic again, just in case, so that we don't miss our shock proc in our ultimate. You will see how important this is later. Then Yanagi ultimate here, giving us 762k Ether Disorder and 1.7 million Polarity Disorder, higher than the first stun window. Then unleash all Yanagi EX, 1.58 million, 1.52 million, wait, 1.08 million? What happened? well, Nicole debuff ran out. And you can also see here, I actually try to swap cancel to Nicole so that Nicole can basic and refresh her debuff. But because of Astra precise assist, it makes it there is a break between them, and making Nicole not fast enough to apply new debuff by basic attack. I guess you could call this Astra cons. Don't get me wrong, there's actually no problem with Astra. This is only a minor problem that actually can be solved by just changing our rotation a little bit. Just like what you see here, the spread Nicole energy felt a little bit better without relying on Nicole basic. This is just a bad habit that I have because before Astra, I was accustomed to do this when playing Yanagi with Nicole. But playing with Astra does make us has to learn to adapt to play with her quick assist playstyle too. That's the important note that I want to point out here. Back to our run, our next objective here is to close our stun shock with Ether. To do this, first we apply Freedom Blues debuff with Nicole EX, then swap cancel to Astra Ultimate. As soon as Nicole EX launch, swap to her chain attack. Don't swap too fast, as this could cancel Nicole EX and make Nicole EX wasted. Then to Yanagi. Astra triggering the corruption, giving us 1.4 million electric disorder. I think there is no way to make this disorder fit the stun window. And here Yanagi triggering shock, giving us 574k ether disorder, and cancelling Typhon jump. This is the damage summary of our second stun burst. I would say this is the best as it could be. Over 10 million damage per rotation is definitely really good. Compared from our first stun window, we triggered 2 more disorder, and didn't trigger double shock like in the first one. This is mostly because in our second stun, we get an extra resource in the form of Astra Ultimate. We are back to the energy generation phase. From here on out, the third and fourth stun phase is not going to be as good as our previous stun window, which might help us to understand more about how to optimize our rotation better. Here, Typhon actually going too fast, moving on to the next phase. Because of that, Yanagi is going to have a fewer energy, and will only have enough for 4 instead of 5 Polarity disorder on the next stun. Parry Typhon attack, and here, after parrying, because Typhon moved on to the next phase faster than before, our electric anomaly setup is also not ideal. This will be a small problem later. What happened here for the rest of this run is actually an on-site improvisation on my side, as this deviates from the rotation that I craft. But there's no problem with that, that's what makes easy combat fun. After Yanagi Kagen 5, swap cancel to Nicole, and get 3 perfect dodge for stage buff stack refresh. Just like before, I run dodge counter to avoid stunning Typhon too soon. We got 3 perfect dodge. Now just like before, we start with Nicole EX, then to Yanagi Precise Assist. But here Yanagi Precise Assist doesn't trigger shock, as it still needs 25% more anomaly build. In this part of the fight, I was actually taking my time thinking of the next best move. That's why it takes quite some time on the chain attack. And this Astra chain attack turns out going to be a mistake. I'll explain about this more later. Because our first shock isn't done building yet, we have to finish it first with Yanagi chain attack, because we want to build a whole new instant shock anomaly that is stronger, so we can monopolize it with Yanagi Polarity disorder. The plan is that, because we use chain attack to finish the first shock, we are forced to use 2 Yanagi EX instead of 1 to build the stun shock, filling the gap that Yanagi chain attack can fulfill here. And the first shock is triggered now to release 2 of Yanagi EX. But Nicole debuff is about to run out here, so we're going to refresh it with Nicole Ultimate. But because I misread the situation and did Astra chain attack before, this actually makes Nicole trigger the corruption too soon, getting rid of the first shock. It's still considered an instant electric disorder, giving 2.7 million, which is a good damage. But it makes the following 2 of Yanagi Polarity disorder way worse, giving us less than 500k damage. Because the Polarity hit the Ether, not the electric anomaly. Not nice. But our stun shock Polarity disorder by Yanagi Ultimate gives us a good number of 1.5 million. And Ether disorder also gives us a good number of 1 million. And here I did my bad habit again, trying to swap cancel to Nicole basic to refresh her debuff right before Yanagi EX hits. But just like what we've established before, this is just not a good way to do it with Astra, making the 4th Polarity disorder only get 1.1 million damage. And our third stun window is done with a not so great outcome compared to our previous rotation. We can get much better outcome. To speak hypothetical, if we didn't trigger Astra chain attack before, we can fill in the two polarity disorder that hit Ether before to hit the non-stun shock before triggering disorder with Ether. Then we instant Ether disorder with Yanagi ultimate, estimating about 1 million damage increase in this rotation. Sadly here, we don't have enough resource to close the stun shock for more damage. Even if Astra Ultimate is ready, Nicole energy is not, so we better save Astra Ultimate for our last stun window and go back to energy generation phase, preparing for our finisher. 30 seconds left and 4 more Typhon HP bar. We're gonna need to get more aggressive on this cycle. Everything going according to plan just like before here, and these 3 defensive assists will be our stage buff refresher here, because we will not have enough time to wait for 3 perfect dodge with less than 20 seconds, but Typhon dash is still at 70, so here we will use Astra Ultimate to inflict daze on Typhon with chain attacks. All buff and debuff is checked out, and both shock and Anomaly bar is full, so we can do the instant electric disorder just like on our second stun window. But before that, I was planning on hitting Typhon with Polarity first here, but Astra has other plan. She's so eager to trigger Corruption of Field. The instant disorder damage here is actually really good. 3.2 million is the highest we get so far. For a non-stun shock, that's as high as it can be. But this makes Yanagi Polarity disorder way worse, only 589k. I would prefer if Astra could wait a little bit and trigger the corruption with this attack, while also triggering the stun window chain attack. We could also call this another Astra cons, I guess. Her off-field anomaly trigger is definitely really good, there's nothing wrong with that. But to fully utilize it for the best of our rotation, we have to learn how to play with her as well. I would say that this is also mostly fault on my part like before, not on Astra. It just means that I haven't mastered playing her yet. Back to our stun window, refresh Nicole debuff with her chain attack, and as there is only 10 seconds left, my instinct here is to just unleash all the resource that we've got until Typhon is dead. Now, the stun shock should be ready. We got one Yanagi EX and then this chain attack. But turns out getting too rushed here become a crucial mistake. As it turns out, I misread the anomaly bar and Yanagi ultimate didn't hit the shock trigger. And Nicole debuff is also not enough, making the ultimate polarity disorder hits the ether anomaly, giving us only 250k. This is crash out territory. Maybe it's because of our previous things, but the third stun rotation that's not ideal, the Astra triggering corruption too soon, and now we missed the crucial Yanagi ultimate. That's one thing that I like in Deadly Assault, man. It's a marathon. You can't really make a small mistake that you did mid-fight get over you, because it will make you lose your composure. There is the sound of doubt coming from the back of my mind here. It's over, just reset. But nah, we're not doing that in this household. We can still slay Typhon here. The better way to do this part is to swap to Nicole after this Yanagi chain attack to refresh her debuffs and build some more electric anomaly with Yanagi quick assist and maybe a basic, then spend all the last Yanagi energy for the last burst of damage. And Nicole photobomb the wipeout screen. That's okay, she deserves it. She wants to show off her new outfit. We get it so clutch here. The boss didn't even register that it's dead yet, but we still get the max damage score. And that's still a great run. But we can definitely go faster, if we want. My best time with this team is around 250. Overall, it's a really good team. Any DPS with Nicole and Astra now is a good team. Well, yeah, they are just too strong together, man. Well, that's the breakdown. I hope this video helps you, and see you next time.